What happens when a CEO walks into his own barbershop, takes a seat among the waiting customers, and accidentally overhears two barbers chatting about how to squeeze money out of clients using a fake hairdryer maintenance scam? He says nothing, just sits there, watching the lead barber draw eyebrows on a client with a black marker, while the assistant barber tries to calm down a crying child by snapping scissors in the air like a toy. And then he hears the second sentence, the one that sends a chill down his spine and makes him realize that if he doesn't act now, the shop that was once his pride will soon become a living, breathing joke. Austin Clark stood in the elevator on the 45th floor, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a cup of cold coffee. The elevator slid down in silence. When the doors opened on the ground floor, where the long marble hallway reflected the soft morning sunlight, he didn't step out right away. He paused, standing still in front of the large mirror mounted on the gray stone wall. Tie still straight, crisp white shirt without a single wrinkle, clean-shaven face, hair slicked neatly with gel. On the outside, he still looked like the perfect CEO of Clark's Cuts, the barbershop chain now present in 12 cities across the United States. But in his eyes, reflected in the mirror at that moment, was something else. A faint sting, like a stray hair brushing against the collar, not painful, but just sharp enough to make him notice. For the past few weeks, emails from the customer service department had been popping up on his phone every morning. Nothing too serious, at least on the surface, but they all had one thing in common. They came from the same shop, Clark's Cuts, Venice Branch, Los Angeles. I came in for a haircut, but felt like I was bothering them. The manager raised his voice at a staff member right in front of customers. Not a single smile, even though I've been coming here for years. The space is beautiful, but the attitude cuts through the whole experience. He used to chuckle when reading the first few, but over time, that smile faded, replaced by a quiet, nagging discomfort. Clark's Cuts wasn't built to be like this. It all started with an old wooden chair in his father's garage in Ohio, where he used to cut the hair of neighbors and classmates using a chipped pair of scissors. Back then, it wasn't just about haircuts. People talked. They laughed. They shared stories about yesterday and dreams about tomorrow. When he opened the first official branch, he gave his team only one instruction: don't forget to ask customers how their day's going. But now, when he asked the managers about the complaints, they simply shook their heads. Maybe the customer was just being sensitive. It's the busy season, staff are under a bit more pressure. The monthly report looks good though, boss. And it was that last sentence that kept him up all night. High revenue, but low trust. Impressive reports, but a broken team spirit? A true CEO doesn't just read numbers, he has to read people. He took a sip of his now ice-cold coffee. A breeze drifted in from the main entrance, puffing up the cuff of his sleeve just slightly. And in that fleeting moment, he remembered his father's words, spoken the first time he ever held a pair of scissors. You don't have to be the best at cutting. Just give people a reason to come back. He never forgot. But maybe some people had. Austin Clark stepped away from the mirror. He pulled out his phone and sent a short message to his assistant. "Ooh, cancel next week's meetings. I'm leaving the city for a few days. Destination Zero Venice, LA. Don't tell anyone." Tomorrow, Clark would visit the Clark's Cuts Venice branch. Not as the CEO, but as an anonymous customer in an old baseball cap, a hoodie, and with only one simple question: what's the haircut experience like here? The next morning, Los Angeles was gloomier than usual. A thin layer of mist hung gently over Venice Boulevard, giving the air a damp chill, as if foreshadowing that something was about to happen. The rental car pulled up to the curb. Austin stepped out, wearing a faded blue baseball cap, an oversized gray hoodie, and worn-out jeans. No one recognized him. His hair, usually styled by the finest barbers on the East Coast, was now deliberately messy. Stubble dotted his jawline, and his shoes? So old they looked like they'd walked across America 3 times. He looked up at the sign on the glass door, Clark's Cuts, Venice branch. It still looked classy. Bright LED lights, warm brown wood interiors, bold logo on display. But the soul, that feeling of welcome home, where had it gone? He pushed the door open. "Good morning," a male voice called out from the front desk. Young, energetic, and, well, so emotionless that even Alexa might have sounded more sincere. Austin gave a slight nod. "I would like a haircut." The young guy didn't bother looking up from his iPad. "What's your name? Did you book an appointment?" Austin shook his head. "No, I just happened to walk by." The guy let out a small sigh, soft enough to stay polite, but loud enough to signal his annoyance. "Have a seat over there. Might be a wait. Schedule's kinda packed today." Austin sat down on the long bench near the door, hands in his pockets, eyes quietly scanning every movement inside the shop. A woman was seated in chair number 2, staring intensely into the mirror as the barber used the clippers like he was carving a melon. On the other side, a middle-aged man was being asked for the 3rd time, "What kind of fade do you want?" even though he had already answered clearly the first time. There was laughter, but not from customers. It came from 2 employees, whispering about that weird dude from yesterday, unaware that the man they were mocking was sitting barely 6 feet away, wearing a baseball cap and pretending to scroll on his phone. After 20 minutes, a barber stepped out. She looked to be around 30, with a bob haircut, a slightly tired face, but a smile that still held a thread of patience. "You're the walk-in, right? I'm Haley. Chair 5. This way, please." Austin stood up and followed her to the chair. "How would you like it cut?" Haley asked as she tied on her apron. "Anything's fine, as long as I don't end up looking like I'm on the run from the FBI. Haley let out a soft laugh, the first bit of laughter in the shop since he walked in. "Don't worry, you still look more like a petty criminal. As long as I don't get detained, I'm good." Austin replied with a faint smile. The sound of scissors clicking filled the air. While Haley was trimming the back of his neck, a voice called out from the office area in the back. Haley, don't forget to close your KPIs tonight and upsell those mini shampoo bottles. Old guys with gray hair always pay up. Haley hesitated. Yes, sir, she replied. Austin watched her through the mirror. Her face dipped slightly. Her hands were still precise, but the rhythm they'd lost that natural flow they had just seconds ago. He said nothing, but in his mind, a picture had started to form. The scissors in Haley's hand still moved gently through each strand of hair, but her eyes no longer carried the ease they had at the start. Austin sat in silence, watching her every motion through the mirror. Is the shop always like this? He asked casually. Haley paused for half a second, then nodded. Like what? Customers get interrogated like they're crossing a border, he said with a faint smile. And staff get called out like they just missed a deadline. Haley let out a quiet laugh, the kind that says, I know, but I'm not allowed to say it. You're not a regular here, are you? She asked softly, eyes still on her work. Austin raised an eyebrow slightly. What gave me away? Regulars here, they eventually learn how to smile without actually feeling happy. But you still have that curious look in your eyes. Haley turned away, brushing the fallen hair off the cape. Before Austin could respond, a voice from the employee area rang out again this time, louder. Haley, I just reviewed the receipt for the customer at Station 3. Why didn't you add the extra $8 for the mini hair treatment? You missed that opportunity. The voice belonged to Tasha, the morning shift lead. High heels, blood-red nails, and a gaze sharp as a laser every time she checked an invoice. Haley pressed her lips together. That customer's a student. Their hair looked weak, so I didn't want to upsell. Tasha stepped fully out of the back office. The sound of her heels pounding on the laminate floor echoed like war drums. Didn't want to upsell? There's no such thing as don't want here. We push services. That's how this shop survives. Austin kept his head lowered, pretending not to pay attention, but his eyes stayed locked on the scene. Not a single staff member looked up. Just sidelong glances bouncing off mirrors and glass. Are you doing this job to make a living or to run a charity? Tasha's voice carried like she was lecturing in a sales seminar. Haley said nothing. Answer me, Haley. Are you working for money or for kindness? Austin placed a hand on the armrest and spoke calmly. Maybe those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. The entire shop fell silent. Tasha turned toward him, eyes sharp as an unsharpened blade. And who are you? She asked, emphasizing every word. Austin sat up straight, removed his cap, and gently pulled down the collar of his hoodie, revealing a faintly embroidered company logo on the inside. No theatrics, no dramatics. Just a look, enough to make a few staff in the back drop the combs in their hands. I'm Austin Blake, he said, eyes locked on Tasha, CEO of the Clark's Cuts chain. Tasha froze like someone caught seeing their husband on an undercover reality show, minus the script. Haley stood motionless, like a statue. Austin gave a small shrug. I came here to find out why this branch has the highest turnover rate in the entire system. And thank you, Tasha. That question, are you working for money or for kindness? That's exactly what I needed to hear. No one dared to move. He leaned back slightly, wearing a smile that wasn't angry, just subtly disappointed. Go ahead and keep cutting, he said, turning to Haley. I don't have a new haircut yet, but I think I just spotted a few old things that need fixing. Tasha remained frozen in the middle of the salon, like someone who'd just had a bucket of cold water thrown in her face. Her high heels didn't seem quite as steady as they had a minute ago. The other staff began whispering. No one spoke loudly, but their eyes said it all. Oh my God, that's the boss. Austin stood up, gently brushing the stray hairs off his hoodie like he'd just come out of an investigation rather than a haircut. He turned to Haley's row. Thanks for not trying to sell me a $40 shampoo bottle to protect the soul of my hair, like the menu suggests. Haley smiled, nervously. Now, I'd like to meet the whole team. Austin said, his tone not angry, just firm and direct like a perfectly parted comb line. No one dared to delay. In less than 3 minutes, every barber, receptionist, and even the new trainee from this morning had gathered. The air was thick like level 5 hair gel. Austin stood at the center of the salon. No podium, no microphone. Just the cool white glow of LED lights reflecting off the mirrors and a CEO who had just experienced his own service. You all know who I am, but today I didn't come here as your boss. He paused for a moment. I came here as a customer. Tasha shifted slightly, about to say something, but Austin raised a hand gently. Not your turn yet. Last week, I received an anonymous email from an employee at this very shop, Austin continued, his gaze moving across the room. The message was short. We don't need more customers, we need more room to breathe. Someone in the back let out a quiet laugh, not out of amusement, but because it was just too real. Austin sighed. I used to think the core value of Clark's cuts was skill. But after sitting here for 2 days, I realized something the reports never shows. Great skills can't save a toxic environment. He turned toward Tasha, who was now clutching the upsell menu like it could somehow shield her from being fired. You're the shift lead. It's your job to coordinate and make sure the staff can serve customers at their best. But instead, you've made them feel like they're working in an interrogation room. Tasha started to speak. I was just trying to make sure we hit our revenue goals. By shouting slogans like it's a pyramid scheme seminar, Austin cut in, not harshly, but firmly. I don't need a team selling chemical products. I need people who know how to cut hair and how to be human. The room fell completely silent. Austin turned to Haley. You know what stood out the most to me when you were cutting my hair? Haley swallowed hard. It wasn't the technique, he said. It was when you poured water for an elderly regular with both hands, then bowed slightly and thanked her for always coming back, even if it was just for a $12 style. That's something you won't find in a KPI. And it's definitely not in your report, Tasha. A few eyes around the room started to well up. Austin stood up straight and spoke clearly. Therefore, as of this moment, you are suspended from your position. I'm going to review every single complaint this salon has received over the past 6 months. And if I find out that anyone was pushed out for refusing to upsell some magical Scandinavian pine nut hair growth serum, I will rewrite our entire training policy with my own blood and sweat. The shop was dead silent. And the rest of you. He turned to address the entire staff. I didn't come here to threaten anyone. I came here to start something new, to cut away the bad, preserve the good, and reroot the very culture of Clark's Cuts. He stepped into the center of the salon and pointed at the price board hanging on the wall. We don't just cut hair. We restore confidence. And I swear from this day forward, no one will ever be forced to sell serum instead of building trust. 2 days after Austin's shave-down of old beliefs, Clark's Cuts began to change not with fresh paint or LED signs, but with something harder to see attitude. Tasha, now officially suspended, was no longer shouting, "Every shampoo bottle is a victory." In her place, the temporary shift lead was Haley. She received the news with wide, stunned eyes. Me? Seriously? I thought I just gave the boss a lopsided haircut. Austin laughed. It's fine. I once shaved my own head in a dorm room for a TikTok challenge that was way worse. Haley laughed until her mascara ran for the first time since starting at the shop. She felt like more than just a walking pair of scissors. On her first day as acting shift lead, Haley forgot to turn on the music. No one complained. Instead, Connor, the chatty barber, grabbed the hairdryer and belted out Sweet Caroline like the salon was a full-blown Broadway show. The customers applauded. One bald guy even asked, "Could you sing Let It Go while you shave my head?" And that's when Haley realized. A relaxed atmosphere sometimes starts with not being afraid to mess up. The first team meeting with Austin took place after closing time, when the scent of burned hair from curling irons had faded and the scissors had finally gone quiet. Austin stood in the center of the room holding the restructuring plan. No more upselling targets. Longer breaks between shifts. No customer. All culture day per month for team learning. Or just pizza and cartoons. Connor's idea. He told the staff Clark's Cuts was built on skill. But it survives because of people. I'd rather have a team that knows how to listen than a team that knows how to upsell. Someone asked, "What about revenue?" Austin smiled. If customers come back because they feel respected, you won't need to sell more, they'll want to stay. The following week, the shop got a light makeover 0. The price board was simplified no more. Platinum combo with ingredients that sounded like clinical trial formulas. A chalkboard was mounted near the front desk, where customers could leave notes like "Megan gave my kid a haircut, and he didn't cry." That deserves 5 stars. A small break corner was upgraded with A premium coffee machine, Connor declared. Now this is fuel for the hair game. One afternoon, Austin stopped by the shop in a sharp suit, no disguise this time. A customer looked up, surprised. Wait, the boss? What brings you back? Austin smiled and took a seat. I'm here for a haircut. Connor looked puzzled. But there's not much hair left to cut. Then shave it all. Just don't sing Frozen again this time. The entire salon burst into laughter. Outside, the old sign still glowed, Clark's Cuts, where confidence begins. But inside, what was truly shining was trust. Trust that a barbershop isn't just a place to trim the excess, but a place where people can shed pressure, preserve dignity, and nurture respect. 1 month after the dramatic shop flip, Clark's Cuts had changed more than just its appearance. The furniture was still the same worn leather chairs and a mirror with peeling edges in the back corner, but the atmosphere was completely different, warmer, happier, more genuine. The staff laughed while working not because of sales targets, but because they actually wanted to. Customers started calling the barbers by name. Is Connor free to do a shave today? Haley, after that perm you gave me, everyone was asking, which salon did you go to? One weekday afternoon, Austin returned not as a CEO, but simply as someone trying to rediscover why he began in the first place. He sat in the waiting area, watching each person walk out with a fresh haircut and a brighter face, like their trust had just been trimmed and polished, too. Connor handed him a cup of coffee and grinned. A customer tipped me $20 yesterday, just because I asked if they wanted some mousse. Polite and effective. Pretty legendary, huh? Austin chuckled. I call that revenue with dignity. Just then, the glass door swung open. A woman stepped in, hair neatly pinned up, eyes sharp as a blade, clipboard in hand. Excuse me, I'm from the Franchise Management Board, she said. I received word that this location has altered its sales policy and is no longer following system-wide standards. The entire salon froze. Connor stammered, You mean about us no longer forcing product sales? The woman nodded. And about a male customer, claiming to be the CEO, who ordered the removal of the $89 Platinum combo. Austin smiled, stood up, and pulled a name badge from his wallet. Nice to meet you. I am the CEO. And that combo not only wasn't selling, it was costing us customer trust. The woman looked at him, then glanced around at the staff quietly waiting. The air was tight like a single strand of hair being pulled too hard through a curling iron. She walked slowly around the shop, glanced at the messages from customers' board, and scanned a few people in the waiting area, all of whom looked unusually relaxed. Finally, she let out a sigh. I stopped by because of an anonymous complaint alleging this shop was operating below standard. Austin narrowed his eyes. I think I can guess who wrote it. But, she continued, I see steady revenue, satisfied customers, no wave of resignations from staff. So, she paused, locking eyes with Austin. Maybe it's the standards that need rewriting. As she stepped out of the salon, Connor jumped in the air. "We just got official permission from corporate to be decent human beings." Haley clapped. "First time I've seen the boss sweat without a deadline involved." Austin chuckled, looking around. The scene before him wasn't glamorous, but it was real. At the end of that day, after everyone had gone home, Austin sat alone, gently twirling his father's old pair of scissors. The man who once taught him cutting hair is an art. But keeping trust, that's the craft of being human. The light from the Clark's Cuts sign outside spilled through the front window, glistening like a handwritten line forged from the team's collective effort. A place where you don't just leave with a new haircut, but with the feeling of being respected. 3 months later, a small article appeared in a tucked-away column of the local newspaper Zero Clark's Cuts, the barbershop that makes you want to come back. Not for the mirror, but for the people. The piece was shared hundreds of times, not because it was sensational, but because it was sincere. One late afternoon, Austin sat at the very first branch, the place where it all began. He looked up at an old photo hanging in the waiting room. His father, scissors in hand, standing beside a worn leather chair. Beneath the photo, a caption read, "Don't just learn to cut hair. Learn to listen to people." Austin suddenly thought of Connor, now in training to become the manager of a second branch. He thought of Haley, who had just completed a professional hair care course fully sponsored by the company. And he remembered the elderly customer who came back the other day just to say, "The folks here make me feel like I still matter." A small chain of barbershops. A CEO who once hid behind the mirror in the waiting room. And one decision to choose kindness over growth at all costs. Austin didn't know what the future of the industry would look like. But he knew one thing: as long as the truth remains in every mirror, Clark's Cuts will never go out of style. Final scene. A new customer walks in. Austin stands up, smiling. "Haircut, my friend? No combo that forces you to buy gel here. But can I offer you a cup of coffee?" The audience chuckles softly. The screen fades to black. A line appears. Sometimes, to create something new, you just need to comb the old in the right direction.